Hello guys, this week's gonna be a special one. We're gonna be dissecting this from.
Wasn't that a beautiful Game of Thrones music? It's like a prehistoric version of the Game of Thrones, isn't it? Today we're gonna be looking at one of a few things that I liked about Game of Thrones last season. A lot of people hate it, but a lot of people are always complaining, saying how short it is, and they just can't believe that it's a bit shit, and the dialogue is not as good, and there's no more sinister, typical backstabbing, conniving character development kind of stories. Instead, you have these bits where it feels like the first 5 seasons was great in terms of character building, character development, and the last 2 seasons is basically, it's like you don't have to have any context. You don't have to understand who the characters are. You just have to know that it goes from straight A to B and not going everywhere. Go A, Z, W, and then all the way back to B. Because of that, we're going to be concentrating on something that is a bit more, I guess, let's say, for example, number one, let's go back to the music. You like my Game of Thrones prehistoric music. That's exactly what I think David and Dan was pretty good at in commanding the music. For example, there's the suspenseful parts over here in the battle of the battle with the Night King, where the zombies are trying to climb up. I mean, it kind of reminds me a little bit of another movie, isn't it? It's very suspenseful. Well, sometimes they don't even need music at all, right? So you have these ideas like, you're just waiting. Again, Battle of Winterfell, Battle of the Night King. Everyone's just waiting in front of the castle, weirdly enough. I mean, can't you just wait inside the castle? Why do you have to wait outside the castle? Anyway, everyone's waiting inside the castle, and I think it's a complete... I know, I understand nobody wants the Dothraki to go up front, but they just wanted to accentuate the darkness and how they were not prepared for that at all. And I say that's just stupidity, but they give me that suspense. Oh my goodness, the tension. I was just waiting until these zombies came back in. And now people will be kind of crying, like, now that you see the scene, you be like, okay, there's only like a few Dothrakis which come back. There's only a few Dothrakis which come back. Headshot! Yeah, I understand. The Dothrakis have this superior, maybe if you have like a magic card saying the Dothrakis turnkey, and then you multiply and reproduce like bunnies or something. Another powerful scene without any kind of music is the Arya scene, right? Arya in the library, they're running away from all the zombies, and it kind of reminded me, this suspenseful, under the table and about to go to this, she was trying to escape. It kind of reminds me of another film which is sort of like that, but maybe a bit more intense though. Yeah, it's funny, right? Oh, that's the prehistoric Game of Thrones right there. But there's another scene that I actually pretty like, and it's actually Cersei. I've been actually rooting for Cersei all this while because I believe that she has been a very strong leader in her own place. Like, she's been keeping the realm. It sort of feels like they're under tyranny, but the people don't know that, right? The population seems to live quite happily, and of course, like, obviously any kind of people in positions of power would feel the need to abuse it. But there's something really powerful about this scene where Cersei was basically stuck underneath
I want our baby to live.
the passageway while trying to escape King's Landing. And here you see this really odd moment where she's really vulnerable
I don't want to die.
Right? I mean, she's always this poised, always sipping wine and knowing what to do all the time, every time. And this time around, she had no freaking clue. She went overboard with the games. She overplayed her hand.
Don't look away. Don't look.
And now she's just being very vulnerable human being, which is basically, well, don't let me die, right? It's a beautiful scene, and a lot of people will hate it again. Oh, I wish Cersei would have gotten a better death because she's such a bitch.
Fucking die!
But sometimes there's something more poetic about you losing life in unpredictable ways. So you might just die. It's probably not poetic. The poetry actually comes in that the fact that you are not dying alone. That's probably the most scariest thing. But you have Jaime to help you in there. But the other part that I feel like it's really good is the fact that she died in a rubble. People are not gonna be saying, "Oh, Cersei died protecting her kingdom" or whatever. It's more about who the hell Cersei. So in a way, she got to her justice the way she did, and that's how things sort of goes. Now, another interesting and beautiful scene, what I've seen is the dragons. The dragons, and my favorite dragon scene has to be the moment where Drogon is basically guarding and camouflaging. That is one sick scene. I've never been more impressed with my life with dragons, and I actually cried in what do you call that? How to Train Your Dragons. I just love them. No, but another part that I also like to point out is you have characters in this show which basically are portrayed as heroes. Like Arya is supposed to be this really poised, invincible little lady hero, but by the time she realizes, oh shit, the queen has gone super mad and super insane, now she needs to run. There's this really nice moment when you see she was at first very calm and just walking around and trying to see the deaths around her, but the more and more she sees the catastrophe that's going around her, the more she starts to panic and she starts to run away and running for her life, and only to find that in the chaos between the seabed of human beings and other people who are also just trying to survive and pushing out only their interests. I mean, at one point, I think there was one guy just saying, "Have you seen my wife? Have you seen my wife?" Like in the middle of God knows where. And there's also another scene where the guy was basically trying to rape the girl during a war. That's crazy, dude. That's ridiculous. But anyway, I like the idea of seeing a hero broken, because no one is invulnerable to catastrophes like this. And that scene for me, and the whole idea that you bring Arya down to the ground and seeing how, I think that brought out I was expecting that the dragon was gonna attack the city. I mean, everyone did, but I did not feel like I would have felt the rush and the pressure and the anxiety. Yes, of course, we cannot go away without having to talk about Daenerys. The Queen Daenerys. I actually really adore her. She's probably one of my favorites. And I really will die for saying this, but she's basically the aunt of Jon Snow. But I was really rooting that they come together. I didn't really care at it instantly whether they were doing incest. And did you know that Jon Snow was actually 5'8", and people were giving him shit for it? I'm pretty sure he pissed off some really high up people in Hollywood or something.
I'm here because I love your brother. And I trust him. And I know he's true to his word. He's only the second man in my life I can say that about. Who was the first? Someone taller.
Monster kill.
Who the hell did you hurt, dude? I don't understand. Anyway, there was this nice little instance. Why not? Let's instead of seeing her die over and over again, I have to rewatch this season, rewatch that scene like 17 times because the death was too short. I wished that the death was a bit more. I don't know, I think she deserved a lot more than that death. It was really quick and painless. But maybe that's what she needed, you know. It's all about the continuation. I've never been really good with goodbyes, and I think this is one way, because on the one hand, you know, you really hate her for killing the 10,000s of people, but on the other hand, she's been the character that we've been rooting for the past decade. You want to hear Jon Snow talk some gibberish?
What? You got me.
Now to the final end of the scene. I think this is the last bit that I liked. And it might have been just me alone in my house, but I feel like this part was the most moving for me, and this is the scene from Tyrion Lannister and Jaime Lannister while he was trying to escape. Now there were a few moments in this. First off, to see Jaime, you know, understanding what he really wants, and in the end, sick as it is, he has the love for his sister, and you can see in his eyes that he really wants to do it. Right? He was not fazed by anything that Tyrion was saying, to a point where he suddenly says, "You know what? You'll never see Cersei again," and then he changed. He's a determined man. But what really got to me in this scene was the very idea that you have Tyrion Lannister, and you always see dwarves. You know, it's always been in fantasy books that dwarves are leaders of something. You know, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. It's always about the short man and the little one who actually wins in the end and has the courage. And he was willing to sacrifice his own life for the hope of saving 10,000s of people, which is great. But what really got to me was the part where he suddenly opened up and saying, you know, brilliant acting.
If it weren't for you, I never would have survived my childhood.
So Peter Dinklage is an amazing actor, and I see, you know, this is probably one of those moments where I accidentally cried. So that's about it, really. I mean, there's nothing really much anymore one can say, except finally we do not have to dread those weekly cliffhangers and things like that. And I guess we'll just wait until the next prequel. I guess the next prequels are coming out, which is like 100 years before Game of Thrones, or 5,000 years before Game of Thrones. And I'm looking forward to that, I guess. And that's about it. Peace.